please start my video? Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. Sure. There you go.
I need to be let on too.
It should happen for everyone. There you go, Cesar.
There I am.
There you are.
I
Hi, Les. You guys look gorgeous.
back at you.
I just came from a CMAP meeting. Very interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have to start working with CMAP now because we have to buy some hardware to do this hybrid city council meeting.
Yeah. They were talking about that.
Good.
My first input into them was, can I see a copy of your strategic plan? Strategic plan. I go, well, you have to draw one up, please.
Well, yeah.
At least you know what you're doing.
Let's see. Who else is out there? Heidi and Yolanda are in attendance. Hi, John. No, no. Did you should have a link? Um, oh my gosh. Okay. Hold on. Let me email it to you. Oh, now that I've got it on, I can't email it to you. Um,
Yeah, the link on the agenda didn't work.
Yes, it did. That's the one I used.
Oh, mine didn't.
have you got something to write with, John?
I have no idea how I came on. So as long as I'm on, I'm going to
The
stay on.
webinar ID is 870 2488 7717. That should get you in, and then I'll promote you to panelist. There's Mary. Good.
There's, you're on, Mary.
You guys couldn't hear me. I was on and I'm going, can you hear me? And nobody can hear me.
Hi, welcome home.
Hi.
Need a password? Okay.
We can hear you now, Mary.
Good, Cesar.
Once it's, I'll have to go to my email and find the same link. Okay, hold on. I'll send it to you if I find
Yeah, I had
it.
a,
Are we having technical difficulties?
Yes.
I see. I see what happened. Okay. Yes, we accidentally set up the panelists for June 15th, and that was John Freeman's issue. So let me see if I can get an email from Trish that helps me get into the meeting.
Yeah.
If he just
Sorry
puts
about
that, if he just puts that ID in that I sent him into Zoom, join a meeting, he should get in.
Should be, I went to the message that Dawn gave me today at 3. And I went to that and that was for June 15th, but I went back. When I saw that you guys couldn't hear me, I went back to the agenda. And so I clicked on the agenda and that got me in fine.
The agenda did, yeah.
And I just took the numbers from the agenda and plugged it into Zoom and it worked.
that's
Right.
what
And
I
I
did.
just, okay, I gave those numbers to John, so he should be able to make it work pretty soon here.
Yeah, it should work.
Okay. I'm not going to worry about it too much. Because it didn't affect any of the public, so that's a good thing. There's John. Okay. 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 I'm trying to get
John,
my
can you hear me? There you are.
clerk on board.
There you go. Okay, all present and accounted for. So I would like to now call the City of San Juan Bautista's special City Council Town Hall meeting Tuesday, June 8th, 2021 at 6 p.m. to order. Council Member Edge, can you please start us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. May I please have a roll call?
Yes, you may. Speaking for the deputy city clerk who's on her way.
Okay.
So let's see if I can go alphabetically.
Did
Let's
you
see.
need to talk to me? We're in the meeting.
Are you in the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought I screwed up. I'm not able to get in because I don't have a panelist invite, but you're good. Okay, I'm glad you're in the meeting. No
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
So she can get in if she just uses the number I text her. I'm sorry.
Why?
That's
It's nothing you created.
I didn't give birth to this. Hey, I just text you the number, and I'll promote you to panelist. Okay, thanks, Trish. Okay. Poor thing's got allergies. She was sneezing terrible today.
oh my God.
Okay, in attendance, Vice Mayor Flores,
Here.
you're here. Councilmember Freeman,
You're muted, John.
John is here.
Yep.
Councilmember Edge
Here,
and Mayor Leslie Jordan.
Here.
Scott Friels has an excused absence. Or he notified us that he's out of state today. So he was unable.
wow.
Thank you very much. This meeting will be conducted pursuant to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Order N2920. In order to minimize the spread of COVID-19 virus, the City Council is conducting this meeting via Zoom webinar and will be offering alternative options for public participation. You are encouraged to watch the meeting live on Zoom or Facebook. Please follow the governor's orders and the CDC guidelines regarding preventative measures and do your part to help flatten the curve and prevent further spread of COVID-19. Public comments will be taken on agenda items before an action is taken by the City Council during the meeting. To provide verbal public comments on an agenda item during this meeting call, the phone number listed above or log into Zoom and enter the meeting ID. The phone number is 1-669-900-6833. Okay, action items. Approve the affidavit of posting the agenda. May I please have, is there any public comment on approving
Oh,
the
sorry.
posting?
So
Hi.
moved.
Hi, Deputy City Clerk. Thank you for joining. Do we have any public comment on posting the agenda? Okay, having heard none, may I have a motion to approve the affidavit of posting of the agenda?
So moved.
Thank
No.
you very-
And I'll second.
Thank you very much. Action item 2B, review of the draft budget and capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2021, 2022, and provide direction to staff prior to adoption at the June 15th, 2021 regular City Council meeting.
That should have been listed as a yes. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. That's really a discussion item. We won't be taking action on the budget tonight, but I did bring my pen and my notebook with me, and we did invite the public to join us in the budget workshop tonight, town hall meeting. So with that, yeah, we're ready to move forward, and I'm going to share my screen because I always have fun slides to share. Okay. There we go. Yeah, that number, 870-2488-7717.
It works.
It works. Okay, everybody. Just a review of our budget calendar. I'm so happy to have time in April and May to work on the budget. It feels so normal to me, and to bring this forward. We did approve our audit from the prior fiscal year in December, and our mid-year budget in January and early February. And then we went through a strategic plan update. There was 2 meetings. We had a special town hall. And then I presented the draft budget to the City Council in May. And then this is our community workshop. And before July 1, we have to adopt our budget. So that's the deal. And this is the course we've been following so far this year, with the resolution approved March 23rd regarding the strategic plan and the May 11th budget preview. I actually gave a preview this year and then introduced the budget at the May 18 meeting. So the goal is to take the strategies in the strategic plan and to fund them, to put the council strategy into action. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, putting the strategic plan into action, rebuilding our budget for return in a week. hopefully for the City Council's adoption of the budget June 15th. So this year's theme is rebuilding, of course, after a year of pandemic and budget cuts that I describe in the transmittal letter to the City Council. I'm so glad I wrote that down. I know it's a long transmittal, but it was a pretty long year in 2020 for all of us. And by mid-year, the city was working in a balanced budget. The revenues had recovered, had not done as poorly as we assumed they would. Sales tax responded, property tax was higher. We'll get into more detail as we continue. The City Council approved the Community Development Director, Assistant City Manager position at the mid-year budget, and we initiated the rebuilding of the Planning Department. Brian is watching tonight, I believe, but it is his wife's birthday, and he didn't have a lot to do with the budget this year. So I'll address questions related to community development tonight. He's been with us since May 26th. So, like we said, we updated the strategic plan, and then on May 18th, I provided the City Council with what I refer to as budget narratives. So we have our budget posted online, and I have the link here below, and the link is also in my staff report to the council today. And it includes the transmittal letter and several other important pieces of our budget. It's not just numbers, but it's trying to put meaning to those numbers. Through the course of the last few months, and even before then, we've had three priorities emerge. The first being a public safety subcommittee that we've put together. And soon after the budget being adopted, I'll begin working with the mayor and others to coordinate our public safety subcommittee, and I expect some initiatives to come from that public safety committee, so I wanted to address that in our budget. The general plan amendment refers to what we started more than a year ago in the Urban Growth Boundary Ad Hoc Committee, and we want to continue that work and eventually come forward with a new sphere of influence and perhaps a urban growth boundary that all equals general plan amendment. And that's an expensive process, so we want to make sure that we have the funds in place to see that through to the end. And then lastly, we have the whole conversation around the 3rd Street Master Plan that began to develop when we rolled out a year ago, the Parklet program. So I think it was last June when we approved the guidelines, draft guidelines for the parklets on 3rd Street. And then, of course, thereafter the question was, should the parklets be permanent or not? And we had an interesting email last week from someone who was strongly against that idea. So the idea of a 3rd Street master plan is to have a community engagement process that could last as long as 18 months and put together a vision for 3rd Street that includes relocating the utilities and redoing sidewalks when and where appropriate, and making room for all the things we want to do on 3rd Street in the form of a community vision. So that's a process that's also expensive and can last more than 1 year. It could last 3 years in some cities. So that's the third strategic priority that emerged that I propose to fund in our budget this year. So the budget itself starts with a table of contents, and these are some of the documents that I shared with you when I introduced the budget May 18th. My transmittal letter to the City Council and to the city, our organization chart, the strategic plan that we talked about, priorities and issues, which is the summary, goes into a little more detail on the 3 initiatives I just discussed, personnel changes, and the CIP. And then there's a summary for each fund that we have. So our budget, and government is famous for this, is built on silos, as they say, in bureaucracy. Our general fund is the most important fund, and that's the one that this council has the most discretion over. About 60% of our general fund goes to fund contractual services, and those are mostly in the form of the sheriff's department and the fire department. So that public safety committee is going to take a look at those agreements and see where we can enhance and augment services. The other important part of the general fund is to fund our code enforcement administration and special projects that the council may want to endeavor. Other funds include our enterprise funds, water and sewer, and we have a community development fund that pays for about 80% of our planning costs. Hiring the new assistant city manager, director of community development allows us to reduce that budget by about $50,000 because we're able to reduce our contract with Harrison Associates. Our contract with David Mack, we expect to be half of what it was because Brian is there on the front end to take all inquiries and so forth. So it's a much more efficient way to run community development. The general fund subsidizes community development in all cities. In our case, probably about 30%. About $200,000 of general fund is transferred into community development fund to pay for those services. So this is a detail, and I have this slide here so we can go back and refer to it during our discussion tonight if we want to. Quality of life is where you see the public safety, oops, sorry about that. Is where we have the public safety subcommittee. Talk about building resiliency, of course, following a state of emergency, and nurturing diversity and to remove inequities and celebrate the strengths in our community. I think that's an important new thing that we added to our strategic plan this year. And going backwards from quality of life, the promoting our public amenities is being increased to include cultural arts and activities, El Teatro Campesino and El Credo Studio and other great assets that we have and programs, and to complete our Luck Park master plan, and to begin planning for the Washington Street Park over in Washington and Lang Street. Of course, maintaining our infrastructure has always been a top priority for myself since I've been here and for the city in general, especially focused on water and wastewater. And then secondly, to protect our community assets and our economic vitality while maintaining that historical cultural charm. So this is what that sphere of influence and urban growth boundary ad hoc committee should be focused on. It's clear in our new assistant city manager, community development director, that this is his baby, number 2. So we're funding that one right off the top. And then of course, number 1 is one that I take great pride on, and that is create, promote, and nurture partnerships within the community. So that's something that I've always been proud to do, and the more partners we have, the more successful we will be. So we hope to grow that every year that I'm here. So that's our strategic plan in a nutshell. And then this is our org chart with the assistant city manager, community development director on the left, and then I'm overseeing the other programs on the right. And where you see red in these boxes is where we have staff, and where you see blue is where we're contract. So our contract CPA does our finance for us. RX Tech does our information technology. Our city clerk, our city engineer, current planning I had as Harrison Associates here in blue. Four Leaf is our building permits and our inspections. And so that's the way this is laid out. So you can distinguish which programs we staff directly and which programs are contract services. And I think the org chart is pretty well tested now, so hopefully it'll stay like that for a while. So this year we have to look back 2 years to compare because of the losses that we incurred during the first and third quarters of fiscal year 2021. Those losses are severe. In April we made some big cutbacks. Our library was about 46% last fiscal year. The planning department was way down when we removed the associate planning position, and we had removed the office assistant. So it's better to compare revenues and expenses to 1920 or even fiscal year 1819 to see where we should be. But in general, as I've been reporting, the property tax revenue went up 5% from 1920 because of the new homes that were completed. So that's a blessing. So we combine revenue growth and stable costs. I've been estimating between $400,000 and $450,000 in general funds that we could use at our discretion. And this is the source that I'm using to pay for the 3 initiatives in the draft budget. It's actually about $423,000 right now. It won't dip below $400,000. So we're making minor adjustments as we go as I work with departments, but in general, that's a pretty stable number. And that's a really terrific number considering the impact that COVID could have had. And I can just share with you a couple things on that note. I work with 18 city managers in the area, and in fact, I'm going to be chairing the city managers group for the next year, starting in July. Oh boy. And so I hope to have all the city managers out for lunch at Hardina's in a few months. That would be awesome. I listened to Watsonville describe the American Rescue Plan as making them whole. And then I listened to Monterey as being terribly left out. Monterey lost $32 million in sales tax, and then the American Rescue Plan is only offering $6 million to them in recovery funds, whereas Watsonville is being made whole. I will be attending a workshop tomorrow through the League of California Cities, and when I looked at the most recent spreadsheet, the city of San Juan Bautista was estimated to be at $380,000 of recovery funds, and it's now over $500,000. So that's really going to be a boost for us. It's going to help us restore the lost sales tax that we've incurred, and it's going to help us pay for the transformation of 3rd Street. So that is really terrific, and we should get the first half of that $500,000 before the end of the fiscal year. So, we'll see it when we believe it, but that's what's out there for us. We're more fortunate than others, and we'll count our blessings for the American Rescue Plan. So moving forward, I shared this with the council during the introduction and during the staff report for May 18th. It talks about the status of our general fund, and this is what I'm referring to if you look at this 2-year review of about 15% growth in revenues. Because if we go back to 2021 at that $1 million level, that's a better measure for us as far as where we are moving forward. So to come to 1.2 is actually a decrease, 13% decrease in sales tax, but the property tax and transit occupancy tax have stayed stable. So that's the detail on that, and I just want to take a minute here to show everyone, if I can, I should be able to do this. Click, that should open. Okay, I can share my screen with the council and just give you a quick idea of how that looks in the budget book itself. Where is it? Where's show all windows? There we go. Oh, there's me. Here we go. So the budget book is really easy to use, and so I'm hoping that the folks are comfortable going there. The introduction has the transmittal letter in it that I shared with the city council. It's the same letter, and it's easy to read, especially in this version. It has the demographics of the city and the same org chart. Then the overview that has the strategic plan, priority, personnel changes, and CIP. And then the general fund is here. And I've got a narrative in here, and here's that same table that I was just sharing with you. And then it talks about where we are, actual versus budgeted revenues, and so versus expenditures. So we're anticipating quite a bit more in budget revenue than we are in expenditures, which is giving us this $400,000, $450,000 difference. So we're going to work on changing that with our CIP as I present later on. This goes to show where the property taxes have increased the most and are now our dominant general fund revenue source at $500,000. So that's big. And then the sales tax is down at 300. So, but that's higher than it certainly was last year. And this is another way of looking at the pie chart itself, and then all the different components that go into the general fund and how they've changed. So the sales tax is up. See how the sales tax dipped in 2021 and it's back up again for this year. That's looking back 2 years for comparison's sake. So I hope people are comfortable using the ClearGov and comfortable going back to there, because it's a powerful tool and it's meant to make our budget transparent. So with that, We held the line this year. We saved money in our general fund, and we're only increasing our budget by 0.4%. It's actually up to about 2% now. And we're able to add a 2.6% cost of living wage increase to employees across the board. So that's really good because we were unable to provide a cost of living increase last year. And I just want to remind the council at the beginning of fiscal year 19, 20, the interim city manager implemented a merit system for our employees. So we have been current with our evaluations and with a average or above rating. Each employee has received a 5% merit increase. So just because they're not getting a cost of living increase in 2021 didn't mean that they didn't all earn the merit increases. So this year they'll be eligible for, if approved, this 2.6% increase, as well as merit increases are still on the books for many of them. When you hit the 5th level, then you run out of merit increases. So right now, all of our employees are not at that level. So we're able to honor them. That's really good. That helps morale and helps keep our team together. So here's a snapshot of where we are. I just flashed a bunch of slides at you guys and a bunch of numbers, so I just wanted to summarize real quick. The general fund revenue is about 2.1 million. It was less than 2 when I got here in 2019, so we're showing continued growth. General fund expenses are holding tight at about 2%, and that gives us a difference of 427. I think it's down to 423 now. In the general fund CIP, I've placed $328,000, which allows us to consider almost $100,000 for the reserve account. And to come out of COVID with money for reserve contributions is really great. The general fund CIP, 328, 300 of that is to fund our 3 initiatives. So I'll go into that in a little more detail here in a second. So that's what I had proposed May 11th when I did the preliminary budget review, that we fund these 3 priorities with $100,000 and then come back to the council with a specific budget for each, as each of these are all ad hoc committees and community planning groups that we're working with. So we'll come back with a tight budget and a proposal for the use of these funds as they evolve. So, but in an effort to get our budget adopted June 30th, I'm putting a reserve on those dollar amounts. The personnel changes are fairly simple, that we would add back the office technician or office assistant position. This was vacated in December 2019 and frozen in April, so it hasn't been fully staffed. We got some help from our lead library technician who continues to help with our accounts payables and our IT and our PIO, but she needs to get back to running the library. It's getting ready to open full-time again. Excited about the June 15th messages from the governor and hopefully the end of this emergency response. So that person would return to their normal duties as focus on library and our summer programs and a little bit of park and recreation. The emergency response personnel, in addition to the library lead tech, include our code enforcement officer, who expanded 10 hours a week from 20 to 30, and then the creation of our disaster services community liaison position. It's assumed that all those positions would roll back when the emergency ends. So that brings up the question for the council, an interesting discussion of what becomes of our disaster services worker when the disaster ends. And so what we've done is we've budgeted the cost for that position in the budget now, and I moved it from the city manager over to community development, because that's where economic development is. So the org chart has red coloring under economic development, but we don't have a job description yet. And I want to work with Brian to come up with a job description that he feels is appropriate for the city. So I'm hoping we can have some discussion about community development and economic development later on tonight when I'm done with all these boring slides. So make a note so we can circle back on that one. And let me just go through the capital improvement plan real quick here, and then I'll be done. In the report for this workshop, I added 2 or 3 tables, and this is a table showing the status of our completed capital improvements last fiscal year, and we actually have a couple more pieces of equipment that we bought, but it's about 1.7, maybe 1.8 million dollars, which is pretty good. It's about 25-30% of our capital improvement plan. It included the 3rd Street project being completed last summer, and our master plans, and just a lot of work that we got done despite COVID. So I'm really proud of the fact that we got all these things taken care of in the midst of COVID last year. And this year features, that should be CIP, not CUP. 260,000 general fund for the 3 projects. We carried forward about 3.2 million from projects that were not started last year. A lot of those relate to our facilities, City Hall, the council chambers. And so we only added about $500,000 to our CIP to come back to a $3.7 million figure. And that includes $1 million budget for the design of the Hollister Force Main. So we have 7 streets identified as top priorities from the pavement management plan. I've shared those with the council in the past, and we can bring those up and talk if you like about those. Telemetry for our city utilities, emergency generators for our lift stations and wells. In negotiations over the state's fines for our water system, we were facing close to $1 million in fines from the State Water Board, and we've been able to negotiate, I believe successfully, the use of half of that money back into our own system. So that's really great progress. That's about $500,000 over a 3-year period. So the other $500,000 we would pay back over a 5-year period. So that really helps in this case because they approved our use of half of that fine to build emergency generators, place permanent emergency generators at our lift stations and wells. So I've put $170,000 in there for that. Improvements at the fire apparatus bay. We heard Acting Chief Bedoya talk about the need to change the doors at the Polk Street apparatus bay because we're getting a larger piece of equipment, and there's a support beam down the center dividing that bay into 2 bays. And we're basically going to have one fat piece of equipment that we need to make some changes for. And as we all realize after Brian's reception, and I'm sure for years now, the acoustics in the community hall. So I'm going to dust off that old plan. I believe it's about $40,000, and look at focusing on the acoustics for the community hall. So this is some of the detail that I provided in a big spreadsheet and in the staff report. We've got the Highway 156 right turn lane. That's related to the gas station. That project is moving forward. We need to negotiate for a little bit of real estate out there. And we're talking with the homeowner who lives on the corner. It's about just 4 or 5 feet by maybe 15 or 20 feet of property so that turn can be built. It's still in Caltrans. We're still waiting for Caltrans to give us the approval. And with that, I think the gas station will be ready to launch. Their building permits are completed, and we received a draft development agreement from their attorney, a second draft this week. The pavement management plan we've already talked about $200,000 going up to $275,000 this year. The Rancho Vista lift station in need of upgrades. This has been carried on the books for some time, and we're going to add $75,000 to that because we have a new assessment. That comes out of the Sewer Enterprise Fund money. Transfer switches for wells 1 and 5. This accommodates the emergency generators. So we have a trailer with a generator on it, and it's coming. And we need a transfer switch when the trailer shows up so we can transfer the electricity from the PG&E source that will be down to the live source on the trailer, or eventually to the live source on the permanently placed generator. So that'll accommodate that, and that project's underway. We've already spent $9,000 on it, so we're going to add some money to that project. The Force Main to Hollister is our EPA compliance project. It's well underway. I was on the phone today with the environmental consultant talking about the route and the intentions. I know that project is moving forward, and it should be about a third done by the end of summer. And then we'll have some cost estimates for building that project. And then this green bar means, hey, this is a new project, and these are the emergency generators I was talking about coming from the fines. So that's an interesting graphic. I wonder how that happened. I'm sorry. I'm a little late getting these slides together. I have a small version and a short version. These are our facility project. I've split the council chamber in half from 45 to 55 to allow for money for the community hall acoustics. And then we have some money for fencing of the corporate yard. We'll be buying a library air conditioning unit. We've already gotten 3 bids, so I'm hoping that'll be in time for the summer. It may be July, but hopefully in time for the summer. The fire station city hall generator, we hope to get a grant for, but if not, we have the money in our facilities improvements budget. So that's different. That's for city hall and the fire station itself. And then we have a file storage system that we're carrying over from last year, and then the apparatus bay improvements that we talked about at about $50,000. So those are our facilities, and then the equipment. I understand that we've already bought the tow behind valve exerciser, that it's on its way. I just haven't seen it yet, so that's great. One of the deficiencies we have in our public works right now is the amount of time and energy we spend on our streets. We tend to be focused on water and storm and wastewater. If we get this dump truck bed fixed up, we get this truck rolling, we'll be able to carry the materials we need to fix potholes and to be more responsive to our streets improvements. So we have dedicated 2 full-time equivalent employees to the streets, and this is their main tool, the dump truck, which is moving forward. Carried forward from last year, but again, we've got the prices and we're ready to do that now. So it just won't be done in 2 weeks. So we've got to carry that over to next year. And then these are some of the special programs that we've talked about. With the new assistant city manager coming on board, he'll be rolling out all 3 of these grant programs. The LEAP grant is the one that's paying for our analysis of accessory dwelling units and the upgrade of our the update of our inclusionary housing ordinance. And then the SB2 grant was a specific plan that we're going to revisit. It didn't get very much traction when I tried to present it in January, so we're going to rethink the SB2 grant. But we're also going to be working on the active transportation plan, which will be great. It'll be the trail system through our city. So we have the rate study for the water and sewer program. That is well underway. You can see we've already spent $18,000 out of 23 on that. We're just about ready to wrap that up. And then we have to do an impact fee study every so many years to create a nexus, a connection between the impact fees. We have a library impact fee, a facilities impact fee, a street and traffic impact fee. So we need to review all of those to make sure that our nexus is something we can defend in court and something that makes sense. And then lastly, the reason we're budgeting $260 for our 3 initiatives is because we had budgeted $50,000 for the urban growth sphere of influence study, and that $50,000 is being used by Harrison Associates just last fall. So that leaves about 43. So I'm looking at a budget carrying forward of 100 or more for each of those 3 initiatives. And that is really all I had. So I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm hoping that the council was able to follow that conversation. And I'm more than happy to go back and review any of those conversations that I touched on. My goal was to get your brain thinking budget and take it from there. So Mayor, you had some questions this afternoon that we didn't have time for. So if I haven't answered them, I'm happy to respond now.
No, you're doing good. I'm almost all caught up. But let me start with council members first. Sorry, and I must do this in alphabetical order. So Councilmember Edge, you're up. Questions, comments,
Well,
concerns?
you kind of answered some of the questions that I had. I had several and I didn't have a chance to talk to you today, but this is very well done. I'm curious, the emergency generators, how many do we need? Or do we have an amount that we're supposed to have on hand?
In the best world, council member, each lift station and each well would have their own emergency generator and an automatic transfer switch, so that when the power went off, which is inevitable, that generator would kick on automatically. We wouldn't have to be there, and that way we would have no lapse at all in time between the either the sewer being pumped at a lift station or the water being pumped from a well. The wells are not as critical because we have that huge 1,000,000+ gallon storage tank. So that's why the idea of getting a generator on a trailer for now would be viable until we have time to pour a cement pad and put in the electrical that we need to mount a $40,000 or $50,000 generator. So how many? We have 3 wells. So we would start with well 1, our most important well. And then we have 3 lift stations. We actually have 4, but 1 has an emergency generator. The one at the Creek Bridge development has a generator, but we would need a generator for Rancho Vista, a generator for Lang Street, and a generator for the Diaz lift station. The wastewater treatment plant itself does have a big generator. We have used it. We exercise it every week, but it's old. But I didn't see, it doesn't make much sense to replace it if we're going to be not using the wastewater treatment plant in the future. So we'll put these investments first in our lift stations and our wells.
Yeah, okay. And then I think, you had said most of our pavement management projects are going to be funded by Measure G. How much and where does the rest of the money come from?
That's a great question. We have 2 or 3 sources. So Measure G comes through COG, and we get about $45,000, $50,000 a year. We spent $260,000, so we saved it up and we spent it on a portion of our 3rd Street project, and we have about that much left in the fund balance. So I've budgeted $275 for our pavement management plan, but there may be more room for that because we also receive, every time we pay for gasoline, it's interesting, you hear how NPR will talk about gas costs being higher than ever right now at $3 a gallon. You scratch your head and you say, but in California, we're paying $4 a gallon. Well, that's because we have a gas tax, and the purpose is that the people that use the gas pay for the roads. So we get about $46,000 a year in gas tax. It's on a per capita basis. So unfortunately, our share is low. And then there's a second source of gas tax now, the SB1 money, and that's a little higher. That's about $60,000 or $70,000 a year. So, and then we have lastly a COG resource that we've relied on before. It used to be called RSTP money, and I even forget what the acronym used to stand for. But we used about 150,000 of that on the speed tables that we built, and about 100, that was 80,000, and then 150,000 on the 3rd Street project. So there's about 5 different sources that we have right now for new streets and rehabbing our old streets that we cobbled together to tackle these projects. And the reason I'm presenting these projects together as 7 projects is because we can bid all 7 of them. So it's a combination of filling cracks and slurry seal, and it's a wide variety of different treatments to different streets that are prioritized in our pavement management plan.
Okay, thank you. Good job.
I love the budget. I don't know if you guys, don't you guys love the budget?
I referred
fun stuff.
to some of the, that book that you have online, whatever you call it.
Yes, the ClearGov. Yes.
Yes, that was good. I enjoyed using that.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you looked at it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Flores?
No comments, no questions. Good job, Don.
Thanks, Cesar.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman?
Yes, thank you. Great presentation, Don. Thank you. I learned a lot, but I have a couple of questions. You mentioned you wanted to redo the Third Street utilities. But I thought all the utilities on Third Street, at least in the downtown blocks, are already buried. So I'm wondering why we need to redo them.
Well, let me clarify. In terms of utilities, I'm referring to the infrastructure that's under the street already. For example, if you're standing on Third Street and you're looking towards Doña Stairs, you'll notice that the pavement has been cut just a couple feet from the sidewalk, and that's the water main. And we have several parklets on top of the water main. So the goal would be to rebuild the whole street the way we did the other section of Third, and at the same time move that water line to the center of the street if we're going to keep that to one lane. So that way we can access the water and sewer and the other utility lines without disturbing what's happening on the sidewalk or the parklet that may be there. So that's what I was referring to, the underground utilities and moving them to the center of the road.
Okay, thank you. But I just a reminder, you also have to move PG&E and cable TV and phone and all that stuff too. It's
Because we're all down
they're all-
there.
I know that's not much, but it's just I just thought I'd ask.
Thank you.
And other than that, I would like to suggest that we actively think about developing some sort of park with a. It's not a playground; it's a recreation center for teenagers and even adults. That include basketball, volleyball, skateboarding, and stuff. All the parks we have mentioned: the Veluti, Luck Park, Franklin Park, Trail Plan. None of those really will excite the younger crowd. Let's say teenagers. And one of the things you want to do, if we want to keep the city safe, you can spend a lot of money on police services, but also you can spend some money on recreational opportunities to keep the kids out of trouble, and that helps on the other end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns from the public? Does anybody else want to join in?
Trish, can you take a look for us? So if a member of the public would like to speak, please raise your hand so we can see and we can invite you to speak with the council.
Or *9 on your telephone if you want to dial in to that phone number.
Yes. I'll have to get that from Shauna. She says it so well.
The phone number to dial in is 669-900-6833. And you can hit *9. EJ Sabathia has his hand raised.
Great. There you go.
Hello. I just wanted to make sure you all knew that, the public is listening. We are here. Appreciate the comments. Appreciate all the comments.
We know.
Thank you, EJ. Welcome.
I want you guys to think nobody's listening, nobody's paying attention. That's all.
Yay. Do you have any questions or comments?
That was my only comment. Everything.
Nice.
looked
Thank
great.
you very much.
Thank you.
For coming. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, or concerns? Wow, people, we're spending lots of money and you're all okay with it. I love that. We're doing good. Don, you're doing great. Can you go over the 7 streets? Do you have that handy?
I do. Hold on. Yolanda does have a question. Would you like
Oh,
to?
I'm sorry.
There you go, Yolanda.
Yolanda, unmute yourself. There you go. Hi, welcome.
Hey, John, thank you for mentioning the kids And the rec department, that's close to my heart. Thank you for mentioning that, John.
You're welcome. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Streets.
Yes, let me, I have to pull up the file and then I can share my screen, so bear with me for just a minute.
Okay. And while you're doing that, and hopefully our next meeting, we'll work on the agenda to come. But there have been concerns about some things like basketball hoops. So hopefully we can put that on the agenda for next week and talk about it.
Yes, if you would like to have, well, and that's right along the lines of the Park and Rec, right?
Yep. Yep.
I worked with Julie Bazat, our city engineer, and took some advice from some of our council members. We were looking at a couple of priorities in our pavement management plan that didn't quite make sense. By that I mean one of them was the Alameda between San Juan Hollister Road and 156, and it was pointed out that that's the gas station. The new gas station will take care of that, so we don't need to put our limited funds towards it. But we do have the Alameda listed here, and this should be Pierce Street. So we are doing some work there in the very near future. Oops, not cap. So, and then we added Polk Street. Cesar was talking to me about Polk Street. In our budget, they want to totally rebuild the piece of Polk Street coming down from 156, but we did have enough money to at least do an overlay in and around 3rd Street. So between 2nd and 4th on Polk Street. So we were able to get the some Polk Street work done. So we added that to the list this year, and this is about 205. And when I add the cost of asphalt is going through the roof now, and these are pretty old numbers. That's why I budgeted 275 for these streets. So I don't know if the council, I hope this makes sense. There's a beginning location and an ending location. So we're going to be working on Franklin Street, North Street, 2nd Street, Monterey, Alameda, and Polk. Those are the streets we're working on. And then these are the beginning and ending of the areas that we're working on. And we're either doing an overlay, a slurry seal, or crack sealing, which is simply, that's obviously $250. That's the least expensive thing that we'd be doing.
Right. And I'm sorry, I apologize. Can you please mute all of our attendees if that's possible? We're getting background noise. Thank you for that. I don't know how many times we can patch
Polk Street.
Polk Street.
I know.
It's speed bumps. If we did that through the town, we'd have speed bumps all over the place.
Right.
Yeah, that one. That's a good one. Thank you for pulling that up. Jared, you have a question? Do you want to come on? Jared G.
We can get Jared on board.
There we go. I think I'm unmuted now.
Hi,
Yeah.
Jared. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I signed on tonight hoping, I'm not sure if this is the right time, but hoping to address the community liaison position in the forthcoming budget. Is this the right time to bring that up?
Yeah, go ahead.
I quickly wanted to review a couple of things. I know that there's movement. I know that there has been additions to our city, which is exciting. I wanted the opportunity to express some things that I have been able to do because that position exists, first and foremost, and because of the person that's in that. So I'll address it in two different categories. One of which, if we just take the simple, well, not simple, but the compostable ordinance that's going in, there's a lot of logistical challenges that went along with that. And that position has really played a role in facilitating the needs directly of the individual businesses, and the person that's in that role, being Liz, has fulfilled and succeeded at that role beyond expectations, in my opinion. And even outside of that, opening a business within this year, and because our city is small and we do use a lot of consultants, it can be difficult and time wasting to distract some of the more, I wouldn't say important, but overburdened city positions with simple questions about how to get a permit moved, what's the fees, how to get these things moved around, who are the consultants. And I just wanted to represent that it has been a real pleasure for me that our city has that position. And I think that the person that's in that position is representing it very well. And that would be it.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's always good to hear we're doing well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I saw the projector for the library and the smart screen for the library. We talked a moment ago. Oh, there it is. City Hall and council chambers. Okay, got it.
That would allow for cameras. Cesar and I had a conversation about a new camera system for the council chambers.
Right, and you and Cesar were also talking earlier about working with CMAP on that.
Right, and we have our city clerk Shauna involved as well.
Oh, nice.
Because she's in the city clerk circles about how to best open city council meetings, and I found an article recently that talked about this hybrid action. Remember when we tried to Zoom? I think Mary was mayor, and we tried to Zoom and had council members at home, and it just felt like two different meetings, and I didn't want to recreate that.
Anybody, and it was very difficult to talk.
Yeah, you get the
We were
idea.
learning. We were learning.
Yeah,
So
Attended a couple of meetings with you.
I have
guess,
a question or a suggestion. I don't know
go ahead.
if I can speak now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Going back to that graph that you had between 2nd Street and 3rd Street, Franklin Street. That street is getting so impacted with, it's a narrow street to boot, and people going east and west on that street, it's gotten so bad that I have had to back up and kind of get into JJ's drive area to let people go by. And I just wanted to suggest that we make that, and I've said it before, a one-way. It doesn't matter which way, but we need to look and see which way, just between 2nd and 3rd, because we get trucks that go by there. They have to unload for Doña Stairs and JJ's, and it just really poses an issue for people driving back and forth, and some people don't follow speed, the posted speed limit. And so there's been a couple of close calls for me, that is. I don't know if anybody else has had an experience like that. So just a suggestion.
well, I will bet they have. Councilmember Edge. One of the projects that we're getting done is finally we have 3 bids for striping new parking spots in front of JJ's, angle parking spots, and new parking spots over on by Abbey Park at the office building there to add back about 14 spaces for the ones we lost due to the parklets. And part of my direction to the city engineer was to also look at safety. The chair of the planning commission, Yolanda, had brought up more than once how the changes to 3rd Street have made 4th Street more hazardous, and she was asking for stop signs there. And I think the intersection with Franklin and 3rd Street has also been a concern. So you're not the first person to talk about it, and I hope to get some kind of feedback from the city engineer on their review of safety as a result of the changes on 3rd Street. So I think they're related. I think the safety on Franklin Street is worse because of 3rd Street. So we need to look at solutions for that. I agree.
Awesome. And just a quick plug for ClearGov. The things that you can do manipulating graphs and looking at everything is pretty darn cool. You get this narrative that you were talking about, and then you get graphs that you can turn on and turn off and see where we were and where we plan to be on expenditures and revenues. Yeah, so I encourage everybody to go on and use it. And there is a link on the city's homepage to it.
Awesome. Yeah, I wanted to share real quick just an example of and I'm able to work directly with staff through ClearGov, and it's easier for the staff to work with this as well. This is just an example of our library budget, which increased quite a bit. It was only $54,000 during COVID, and it's at 102 now. So it startles me to see 112% increase. It's like, oh my gosh, what is that? And so you can see this dip. This is the COVID dip. So it's really just it's still an increase because we added a new part-time position there. So the personnel expenses are 69%. So we have 2 part-time positions supporting the library tech at 30 hours, budgeted currently at 30 hours. But what you get when you come to this arrow here, this spreadsheet breakdown, is that you get to see all the detail for each department, and you get to see how much it changed. So we started charging the library for water, which makes sense. It's actually Luck Park's water. But under here, over in salaries, is where you see the increase from 25,000 up to 63,000. So that's to help us staff for COVID, and that's also that's Renee, our new part-time employee, and she's been great to have on board. So that's a key component to reopening our library full-time in July, we hope. So otherwise, the other things that increase with that are the software. You can see the software's gone up, but 100% increase from one year to the next seems a lot, but it's from $3,000 to $4,000 if you go back 2 years. So just, get in there and goof around and look for these little secrets. See this little secret or spreadsheet breakdown. This is what I'm used to working with, is this kind of thing. So all of our departments are there, and these are the general fund departments. So buildings and grounds and streets, and then this is a combination of those two. It used to be called Public Works, and then the streets and the building and ground division. And then our law enforcement is where you're going to find the contractual services. And you can see how that's flat because we're in a 3-year contract with the major expense of being the sheriff, and we haven't adjusted our private security contract either. So again, you go down to the contractual services. Not a lot of salaries attributable there, but here's your big expense is the sheriff at 150, and then level 1 is coming in now over $100,000. They get a cost of living increase. They're in the 2nd year of their contract. July will be the 3rd year of their contract. So, but it's staying pretty good, 307 to 311, considering this is such a big part of our budget. Anyway, it's just an idea, and I thought if I played a little bit with ClearGov during tonight's meeting, if we had time, I'm glad we have time, I could share some of these cool things. the fund summaries are where you're going to find those non-general fund departments. So if I go to the water department, if it'll let me, no, it won't because I've got this in the way. So if I go to fund summaries and I go to the water operating fund, here's the narrative of the fund. And then here we are. We're doing really well here, and I want to keep this as much in proportion as we can. So the light blue being the revenue, and then the 720,000 being the expenditures. I'm trying to keep this ratio as we move forward because this is going to help offset the cost of our operating expenses for importing water from the West Hills treatment plant. So even if this bumps up another $200,000 a year or whatever that cost may be, I'm hoping that we can absorb this cost with the current budget so that it doesn't impact the rates. So in fact, I'm glad I brought that up because I wanted to speak to the rate study a little bit. The rate study is awaiting the MOU with the city of Hollister to be completed, because that has in it the wastewater costs that will be incurred. And I mentioned that in the past, that we're making progress at reducing the cost of our wastewater system. This is just one more sample before I change gears. So I'm going to stop sharing just so I can talk about the rate study a little bit. I did mention in my staff report at one point we were looking at least for the sewer rates, a pretty sharp increase to pay for this force main to Hollister. It could be anywhere between 15 to 20%, which meant that a person with an $80 a month bill could be seeing a $96 a month bill if it's 20%. So we're working to reduce the costs. Initially, our cost to connect to the sewer program in Hollister was going to be estimated $4.5 million, and we have that down now to, I believe, $2.6 million. In any regard, the final draft MOU was sent last week to Hollister, and I received an invitation to meet on that this week. So when we get that in final format, we'll reconvene our water subcommittee, the mayor and Councilmember Freeman, and meet with Hollister's subcommittee, and I believe it's Vice Mayor Vicendez and the mayor there, and talk about any final changes, make sure that everyone is on board, answer any questions at the subcommittee level, and then bring it forward to both city councils for execution. And with that, I can get the rate study done and get it approved. It looks like it would be able to push any increases off for 2 fiscal years till FY 23-24. And it also looks like we have as many as 5 different funding sources. So as well as saving costs, I'm working hard to secure USDA and HUD grants for this program. They would pay close to 40% of the cost. The rest of it's going to have to be financed, and that could either be through an EPA loan, a USDA loan, or the State Water Board. We're in close conversations with them. So these interest rates, we're at 0.9%. And so I'm hoping to take advantage of these low interest rates, probably be closer to 1.5 by the time we're ready to execute. But that's the type of financing we're looking at to try and keep the cost of our projects down. So I had a community member ask me quite bluntly once recently, how are we going to pay for this? And I said, George, just relax. That's my job. So I'm piecing it together for you guys, and I'm not done yet. And I'll keep you posted. That's really that's the scary side of our budget picture, and I don't want to ignore that or avoid talking about it. We will be looking at a rate study, and we may incur some increases here down the road. So I just want to make sure everyone's fully aware of that, full disclosure type of thing.
When was the last time we had a rate increase?
Was July 2019, and that was a simple cost of living 3% increase.
Perfect. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Anybody else? Go ahead.
I just have one.
Go ahead.
Me?
Yes,
Go
please.
ahead. Okay. I just have one concern. I'm thinking of our low-income families and our seniors who are on fixed incomes. And, that was something that I wanted to bring up and I forgot about it. But, when you look at a big increase like that, I worry about those two areas, the low-income people and the seniors, because, they're all on fixed incomes.
Right. There is different forms of assistance for utilities that's available, Councilmember Edge, and some of them are tied to COVID and loss of income because of COVID, and some of them are just ongoing programs. So the Health and Human Services Department, and I know sometimes that name causes more stress than it solves, but having said, they have a utility program that can help with that, and especially for our low-income residents. So I want to take better advantage of those because I think the council considered 10 years ago or so a different rate for low-income residents, and that was deemed to be unconstitutional or a gift of public money or something like that. So we need to be creative. I agree, Mary.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Any other questions, comments, or concerns from the council? Going once, going twice. Any more questions, comments, or concerns from our folks that are online here with us? No, going once. Okay. All right, moving right along. Wow, that was amazing. Any comments from city council members, general? Council member Edge?
I don't have anything to say. Just this was a great opportunity to look at the budget, and great job. Good job, Don. Thank you very much. That's it.
Vice Mayor Flores?
No comments other than good job, Don. Keep it up.
Thank you very much. Council member Freeman?
Thank you once again. Yes, great job, Don. And congratulations to all the recent graduates. Around my neighborhood, that would be Ben Anderson and Nathaniel Gorlick and Carlos Bracho, who's going off to college at UCSMB, and Ben's going to Cal Poly, and I forget where Nathaniel's going, but anyway, he's going to college. Congratulations to all those people.
Nice shout out for our seniors who are having their commencement drive on Friday at 5 o'clock from the grammar school to
Library.
the library. Cool, thank you very much. City manager, final comments.
No, thank you for your support, and I'm more than happy to meet with the public or any council members who choose to talk in more detail about the budget. So the door is open, and now's the time to do it. So thank you for your support. I'm just so glad to be talking about the budget in June.
Right? Yeah, thank you, everybody. Don, this was great. And to the public, we are going to do a final approval on this at our next city council meeting on June 15th. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns outside of this meeting, please call Don and make an appointment with him. Okay. If there is nothing else, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second? Thank you very much. Roll call on this, please.
I think she left.
No, she is here. I see her as an attendee, not as a.
Oh, she must have had to leave and come back in. Well, I had to do the roll call, so I'll let her in to do the. Okay, try it again, Mayor.
There she is.
May I please have a roll call on adjournment?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Councilmember Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Edge,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Flores,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan,
Yes.
everybody being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, all. Don, thank you so much for this meeting.
Okay.
Great job.
Thank
bet.
you. Everybody have a nice
you for your
evening.
support.
Have a good
Thank
week.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, council. Bye, Trish.